Hi everybody, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have an exciting book review for you for Wicked River by Jenny Milchman. This was a hidden gem. I honestly did not expect to like it at all. This was one of the books that I was reading for my 6-month unhaul challenge, where in August I'm going to be unhauling a certain amount of books that I did not like or that I didn't get to within a 6-month build-up period that I started in February. And this was one of them, because this had been on my bookshelves for probably 2 or 3 years. It had been there for a while, and I never read it. And the reason I didn't read this was quite simple. I was not drawn to the synopsis. It just didn't sound like something I would enjoy. It's very outdoorsy, and I don't know. I just really thought that I would find this boring, and it didn't help that it's kind of big for a thriller. But I gotta tell you, I am upset at myself that I waited so long to read this one, because it is so good. I've never read Jenny Milchman before. I've definitely never read this book before. And this completely blew me out of the water. So in this book, we are following 3 POVs. And the story mostly is centered around Natalie and Doug. Natalie and Doug are newlyweds, and they are taking their honeymoon on a week-long trip through the Adirondack Mountains. It's like a one with nature type of a thing, and there's a big reason why I didn't read this book, because I'm like, that's how you want to spend your honeymoon? It didn't sound romantic to me. I didn't really get it, but that's honestly kind of the point, because Natalie doesn't either. She's going along with this to make her new husband happy. He's really into nature. He's into all of this outdoorsy stuff, and he's kind of always been teasing her about her inability to do certain things, and so it's like she kind of wants to prove to him that she can do it once and for all. So they are going on this week-long trek. They're starting at one point, coming out at another point. And then we also have a POV for Mia, who is Natalie's niece. And she is like this typical teenager. She is, constantly complaining about her life, and it's a teen thing. It's a teen thing. But she ends up being integral to the plot, but at first I kind of didn't see the point in having the chapters from her POV, and we'll get into that more in a little bit. And then our third POV is Kurt, who is this mountain man, or whatever you want to call it, who has been out in this wilderness for more than 2 years by himself. He's going a little nutso, and so those are the POVs that we are centering around. Full disclosure, this will have spoilers in it, because oh my god, I have to talk about the wild ride that this book is. And there's not really a way to talk about my feelings about this book, and the way it threw me through a loop, the way it made me feel, without delving into spoiler territory. I will make sure to give you a full warning when I get to the spoilers, and I will put anything relatively major at the end of the video. So we've got Natalie and Doug. They're going on this trek, and right off the bat, Natalie is not feeling it. She likes certain aspects of this trek. She likes being alone with him. She likes the swimming in the lakes and stuff. But she can't stop this feeling that she is being watched. And she doesn't like that she can't really tell where they're going. This woman cannot read a map to save her life. And she is pretty much completely depending on Doug to get her through this. And that makes her uneasy because she's like, what if something happens to Doug? What if he gets hurt? How am I going to get out of here? Valid points. Valid points. So she's very, very uncomfortable about it. And the only thing that is kind of making her not so uncomfortable is the GPS that they get from this outdoorsy thing, the company or whatever that they have set up this trek through and has mapped out the route for them. And they do have a GPS that shows the landmarks around them, and that makes her a little bit easier. She's like, I can read a GPS, but I cannot read a map. So they're going through canoeing. They end up going through like these really rapid torrential water situation, and Doug drops the GPS. Now, at this point, Natalie starts to freak out. She's just like, we have to go back before we end up getting lost because I don't know how to read a map. And now the GPS is gone. This happened relatively early into the trip. I think it was day 1. And she wants to go back. But he's like, no, it's fine. I can read the map. And as long as we do this, blah, 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 blah. He's like pointing out all the stuff to her. He's like, we'll be fine. He wants to continue on. And he talks her into it. So, spoiler alert, they do end up getting lost. But they don't end up getting lost because he doesn't know what he's doing like he claims. They end up getting lost because they stumble across a body of a man who has been shot in the head. And rightfully so, this freaks them out. They're in the middle of nowhere. So if they're going to stumble across somebody, they would expect it to be somebody that has had some sort of a hiking accident. This was no accident. And then they start getting shot at because whoever did this knows that they have found it. And so they start running aimlessly trying to get away from this person. And in the midst of that, they do lose the person, but they end up utterly and completely lost. They have no clue where they are. They had to abandon all of their gear, all of their food, because that was all in their tent, and now they have run away. They have no clue where they were going from. They were just running aimlessly. So now they got injuries. Now they have no food. They have no gear. And they're in some serious trouble. Okay, so going on to Kurt. Kurt has been in this wilderness for a while, and he is losing his mind. He's been alone. He was very, very desperate for food in the beginning. He eventually learned how to survive out there, but it took him a while. And he learned how to survive. He ended up making himself shelter. And this is just a normal way of life for him. And he likes that. But he is missing one little thing: companionship. He is so utterly lonely that he takes it upon himself to try to recruit anybody that comes through his area and force them to stay with him and be like his companions. And if they don't want to, then he uses them for other resources, if you get my drift. I don't think I can say it on YouTube. But he ends up picking up on the trail of Natalie and Doug, who are very, very lost in this area. And then we have Mia. Mia is one of those wild card characters. I will be 100% honest, I did not care for her POVs, the chapters that followed her in the beginning. They seemed extremely pointless to me, because we started following her at Natalie and Doug's wedding, and I thought that it was just going to be like a one-time thing. And then she kept being introduced. And I'm like, why are we following this girl who's not even with them and who's like complaining about her parents' divorce and all of this stuff? It just seemed like it was an unnecessary detour, but it actually ended up being very necessary. She ended up being very, very smart. She ended up being very, very resourceful. And she was the first one to notice that something wasn't quite right about a couple of the guests at the wedding. And she starts to investigate it. And she also noticed that she's also the first one to pick up that Natalie and Doug do not return when they are supposed to. So she's sounding an alarm. Something is wrong. We need to go get them. So she ended up being very important later. She's pretty much the one that solved everything. She figured out what was going on. She figured out they were lost. She led the search party to find them. So she ended up being a very important character, but those earlier chapters, man, it was a whole lot of her just like complaining about her life and her parents' divorce and how she hated them. And it felt pointless, but there was like this other stuff kind of sprinkled within, but it didn't really become crucial until later on in the book. So overall, this was a very, very gripping book. It had me almost 100% through the entire thing. Like I said, I kind of drifted off a little bit during Mia's POV chapters because a lot of them didn't feel needed. But everything with Natalie and Doug, everything with Kurt was just like gripping. It had me pulled in from moment one to the very end. It was so incredibly enticing and was just thrown through a loop. I didn't think that something that was taking place in nature about a crisis situation would be thrilling, but it was. It was just this wild ride right off the bat because you know immediately that this couple starting their life together, that they're royally screwed. You just don't know how at first. And that's an interesting approach. And I gotta say, there were some twists in here that you wouldn't normally expect with a story like this. And those twists were like, oh, holy crap, like what's going on here? At one point, it did have me thinking something about one of our main characters that ended up not being true, thank God, because I kind of started to suspect something. But it's not that I wanted to do it. I just felt like that was the way that the story was going, and that ended up being false. So I was happy about that. It was a red herring. But there were so many twists in this and so much craziness, like the red herrings, the twists, the suspense level, everything was amazing. This was a wild, wild ride. I give it 4 out of 4 stars. Highly recommend. This is definitely one that I am going to be keeping. I'm not going to say I'll read it every year because it's pretty chunky for a thriller, but I will be rereading this. This was so good. Pick up Wicked River by Jenny Milchman if you haven't already read it. And if you have read Jenny Milchman, please give me recommendations for more books by her, because now I'm very, very interested. I really enjoy her writing style. I would like to try something else. So leave any recommendations down in the description for me that you have. That is all that I have for you guys today. If you liked this video, please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, follow me on the social medias. Click that bell if you want to be notified of all of my upcoming videos, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.